All right, so we are here with Armando Valdez, our new rural development person from USDA. Is that right?
You got it, Micah. Good morning. How are you?
Oh, so good, man. Voices of Rural Colorado. We're wrapping this up a little bit. What are your big takeaways from the conference we've had?
Well, absolutely. I've loved being here this morning with Rural Voices, and yesterday all day in the conference. There's been a lot of great speakers talking about a lot of the different issues which are impacting rural Colorado. So I'm glad people are focusing a spotlight on all these different aspects because rural Colorado has needs, and we don't always have the same resource base. I come from rural Colorado, born and raised, and so I'm a product of rural Colorado. So I definitely have a deep passion in wanting to see it succeed, not only for myself, but also for future generations, because rural Colorado has to thrive for Colorado to have a solid foundation for a future.
Yeah, absolutely. How long have you been with USDA?
So I've been there about a month and a half.
Brand new,
so
perfect.
Brand new is part of it.
So we got some fresh blood.
But getting settled into the role very nicely, it was an exciting opportunity to find how to have a positive impact.
Yeah.
And one of the exciting aspects of making that positive impact is rural development, and USDA brings resources for rural communities, whether it's through loans or through grants. We have several different projects or several different opportunities for rural communities to benefit.
I think a lot of people are misinformed, uninformed, completely uninformed about that funding, how it's available. Like, what kind of things have you already seen in the role about that misinformation?
Well, I think you bring up a great point. And when people think about USDA, a lot of times they think about the farm and ranch production aspects of it.
Right.
You know, farm programs that go towards helping livestock producers or commodity producers. They don't think really about the community development.
Right.
And so, first of all, one of my first initiatives is how do we get a strong branded presence, not only for USDA as a whole, but also for rural development. Because rural development covers such a broad area beyond what's happening in the farm and ranch. Now, I'm a farmer and rancher, so that's very important to me, but it's also nice to know that there's programs available not only for farmers and ranchers, but for the entire rural community.
Right.
Areas that want to focus on rural broadband. How do we focus on affordable housing? How do we look at infrastructure, especially water and wastewater projects that impact a lot of our towns, cities, and municipalities in rural Colorado?
Yeah.
Those are areas that we can really bring to the table. Now, to answer your question about how do you find access on them, we have 7 state offices.
Okay.
And connecting to a specialist, specifically a loan specialist in the area, can help with. Now, I say that their title is a loan specialist, but we do have a lot of grants as well.
Okay.
It's really, they should be called money specialists.
Yeah.
Because they are focused on funds. Some are loans, some are direct, some are guaranteed. Others are direct grants, which go out to recipients. So like I say, they're really more about fund or money specialists that help to get to these communities. And so they can contact any of the offices. All of our offices are flexible and interchangeable to work with any community around the state. But we do have an office in Alamosa, Cortez, Delta, Craig, Las Animas, Ray, and then one in Lakewood at the state office where I'm at.
I was going to ask you where you're based out of, and where you're from originally.
I'm from the San Luis Valley, a little community called Capulin, Colorado, which is located in Canales County.
Okay,
very proud of that area.
We've all heard of and know exactly where it is, right?
Very prominent area, and so what's happened, through the pandemic and with COVID, it's actually created a lot of opportunities for virtual workspaces.
Okay, and
so for me, it's created a flexible workspace. So I'm working out of northern Colorado when I'm out of the Lakewood office, but I'm working in southern Colorado when I'm out of my home office in Alamosa office in southern Colorado. So it gets me to have a presence around the state and connect more with individuals.
Yeah.
We need to get this money out there. This money is dedicated for Colorado, but we can't get the money to work unless I can get people to apply for it.
Right.
And so getting to apply for it is to connect with our offices. We have a virtual presence through USDA, USDA.gov.
Okay.
And going to rural development has a list of all of our programs. We have over 50 programs available, so there definitely is something for every single community to be able to benefit from. And we have specific programs that are designated for smaller communities, 5 and 10,000 or less. So it's not just all the bigger communities getting a lot of the resources. Right. And then there's other programs that do fit for 20,000 communities or less, or 50,000 or less. And then we have even some programs that don't even require a rural designation, which could be anywhere in the state, even in some of our metro areas.
Yeah. And see, these are stuff that, absolutely, I think people just don't know about, right?
They don't. And so that's my job.
Nice.
And that's my job, to how to promote greater outreach, greater access, greater awareness of all the programs, and help my staff connect to the communities and individuals who need the resources.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I know, and I've seen that you're already out and about trying to touch as many of these communities as you can.
Trying as much.
What's the biggest impediment to reaching those? I mean, is it just a matter of being able to travel to those areas? Obviously, with COVID, there's some inherent restrictions. But I mean, is it a manpower thing? Like, what for you? What do you think's the angle we need to take to reach those communities more efficiently?
The barriers are two parts. I think first of all, it's the physical barriers of Colorado. Colorado's a big state. I think we're the 8th largest state in the nation.
Yeah.
That's a lot of country, a lot of windshield time trying to get to have that physical presence.
Right.
Part of it is always staffing. I would love to have more staffing in our offices, and our staff are dedicated to processing and working through current applications. And so sometimes outreach is a secondary activity for them,
sure.
because we're trying to work with applicants that are requesting some of the dollars.
Yeah, and you're already maxing out your manpower that way.
In that way. And so that's where I would love to have more specifically dedicated just for some of that promotion and outreach. And then the third part has been COVID. Everyone kind of isolated, hunkered down into their own individual communities.
Right.
And so how do we re-engage those communities to have that interaction to where they understand and know about the resources? So that's why I wholeheartedly believe that these entities that we have, such as Action 22 and Pro 15 and Club 20, can really venture to get this message out, to really connect with their members, but then also the networks of their members that are directly in their community, because that's the phenomenon of our technology.
Right.
Things will go viral. I want rural development to go viral, and I want our programs that we work on to go viral.
Yeah. That's one thing that, like I said, there's a way that people communicate already, and then with COVID, I think, like I said, it gives us an opportunity to work remotely, but that's also where people go to find their information.
Correct.
We're all walking around with a computer in our pocket, and we immediately go look through those things. Do you think there's a hesitance for some of these rural communities to ask for that money?
Absolutely. And I don't know if there's a hesitancy so much for asking for the money as there is the overwhelming nature that's sometimes associated with the application process or all the eligibility details that are associated with it. And so some people start getting partway in, and then they back out because they feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So one of the initiatives that I'm working on here within the state is how to work with partners to maybe find individuals who can assist in the application process. So when they do have questions, they can come see our staff, but then we can also have knowledgeable individuals that can help them ease some of that tension, some of that apprehension, and be able to work towards building, getting the information, gathering it, and help them put it into the application process.
Right.
I really want to overcome that barrier, but because our programs have a lot of details to them.
Right.
And because they have a lot of details, I do really feel people get overwhelmed.
What kind of partners would you be looking for to help with that, help improve that situation?
Yeah. County governments, municipal, nonprofits. I'm open to a lot of different options of how do we give them kind of train the trainer types of approaches, get some templates, best practices, give them some examples of other projects that have been utilized. Give them a variety of options, but having kind of a connecting partner point. So if someone says, I'm interested in a program, we could say, yes, here's our program information. And we also have some partners out in our community that can help, guide you through this process, because either they've been through it or they're prepared to offer information on it too.
Yeah, and having them locally, especially rural communities, there's so much credibility lent to people who have an idea what actually happens in that community.
And that's a great point, Micah.
Part
of it too is that if you see it virtually, there's not that authentic presence connected with it. What's that genuine nature? What's that rapport?
Yeah.
And you bring up an excellent point. If they know someone in their community who they trust, they are more likely to then engage in the process, because then the process becomes more legitimate to them. It becomes easier to them, more familiar to them. And sometimes they just need that helpful assist.
Right.
And that's an excellent point that you raise.
So going forward, for this first year that you're going to be in this role, what are you most excited to be working on, or most excited to see happen?
For me personally, I think the greatest excitement that I have is getting around and seeing all the wonderful diversity we have around the state. I do want to get out there. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
And it's why I'm trying to network and connect with lots of different contacts from around the state.
Right.
And that's for me personally, just to get to know what are the needs, and how can these resources best be facilitated in local communities. But the second part is the initiatives that we have within rural development. We want to promote greater equity, access, and justice for our rural communities. We often think of equity in some primary characteristics such as age and gender and ethnicity, but there's a lot of this diversity and equity aspects that is between rural areas, which are limited resources, I indicated before, that needs some help, needs some assistance.
Yeah.
Rural communities, regardless of your background, provide significant barriers because of that limited resource access.
Right.
Rural development becomes helping with that equalizer to get resources into those communities to where there should not be a trade-off because you live in a rural community
Sure.
that you don't benefit from an enhanced environment. We want to create and encourage that diversity. We don't want our rural communities to become like our urban and suburban partners,
Right.
Neighbors that are there. We like the characteristics and traits of our rural communities, but they should be as valuable and as honored and as recognized as those that are in our suburban and urban areas as well, which have their great attributes and characteristics.
Absolutely.
But they don't need to be the same.
Right. So that's where equity
It's different than equality.
Exactly. Yes. I was going to say the same thing. It's equity. People misunderstand it as equality. It's not the same thing.
It's not the same. It's not the same. It's about fairness.
Yeah.
It's about what's most appropriate to people's situation.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're looking about in this equity and just approach. The other parts of it are infrastructure with the Biden-Harris administration and President Biden's initiative to really improve and enhance infrastructure throughout our society. That's also going out to rural communities.
Yeah.
So how do we find better ways to work on water, wastewater, electrical, broadband, housing, a lot of that, healthcare. All Absolutely. That's a part of the infrastructure conversation that we need to have.
It's really funny. I was talking to a guy the other day about, with healthcare. You mentioned that with like telehealth and how that really the biggest concern around that is, access to care and quality of care. And I think those kind of sum up how you get to that equity piece is ensuring a certain quality of the services you're providing and having the certain access to those services. Because that's how you really bring that balance, that equity into the picture.
Absolutely.
We also had, we just heard from Phil Weiser a little bit ago, and it was, I think, the most impressive thing I've seen in a long time with a politician. How everyone in that room that spoke thanked him for visiting their areas. I mean, across the state, all the way, northwest up to Rangeley, all the way, Kim and Elizabeth down to Alamosa. He's everywhere, but you see the impact that makes, the trust that breeds with people, and I think that's another piece that's kind of been pushed to the side a little bit, is that trust piece and how important that is to someone like USDA being successful in this.
Absolutely, Mike, and I'm glad you recognized Attorney General Weiser in that situation, because it was something to see people from different political ideologies, people from different geographic areas thanking him, as you indicated.
Yeah.
So I really believe that Attorney General Weiser is a role model. He's Absolutely. A role model to emulate. He's a role model for several agencies, especially for USDA and rural development. We want to have that presence. We want to build that trust, because it's not about different ideologies. It's not about different political backgrounds. We all live in rural communities. We have the greatest society, the greatest community, the greatest country in the world.
Right.
And how do we recognize those areas that make it so great?
Right.
And one of those areas that make it great is our rural areas. And we work together, even though we may have different strategies of how to get to different goals. We all have similar goals. We want better lives. We want enhanced opportunities for our youth. We want to have sustainability and opportunities for the future. We want to live quality in quality environments.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, being in a rural area should not be a trade-off for that. So I thank you for bringing that up, especially about Attorney General Weiser.
Yeah.
We can see it across the spectrum of how we can connect with different people.
Right.
As long as we build trust, as long as we connect that we're having the same outcomes and goals that we want to achieve.
Yeah.
And how do we get stronger doing so together, not apart?
Right. Well, I look forward to seeing you all across the Action 22 footprint. I know you got a big job ahead of you.
It is, and it's a big footprint.
It's a big footprint.
And that's why I need great partners, like from Action 22 to help make that happen.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see how we can work together and how we can partner in, getting people to understand our programs, getting more familiar with programs, getting to know me, so then they feel in that trust, they can reach out to me, ask questions,
Absolutely.
And I can help navigate them to either the resources, the programs, or opportunity that we have.
Wonderful. Any parting thoughts?
Just thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you for the ability to network and outreach to so many communities out there in Colorado, and especially rural Colorado. We want to have a presence. We want to have a role, and rural development, I really feel, is the partner to help enhance and make our rural communities better.
Wonderful.
So thank you, Micah.
Thank you.